Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to The United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news as we talk Guirassy, deal day, deadline day, probably, certainly. Bild are saying that if anybody, including Manchester United, want to sign Guirassy, the middle of January is the deadline day and we're almost there. So Sunday tomorrow, will Manchester United make a move? We'll talk about that. Also, ex-United legend Paul Ince says that it might be time to drop Kobbie Mainoo. We'll talk about why that makes a lot of sense and it's not necessarily the big headline people would think it is, because we've got a lot of players coming back now and Kobbie Mainoo is still a teenager. So we'll talk about that as well. Also, be talking about a couple of exits from Manchester United, a former Man United manager making an amazing, sensational potential return, and all the latest breaking news and transfer news for you, as well as your questions and answers to be answered as well on the morning show. So lots to get into today. Good to have some Premier League action, but of course Manchester United are playing tomorrow. And with the Premier League back, we are sponsored by Surfshark today. Surfshark is a virtual private network. We've used them before. We've mentioned them before. I'm sure you know what they're out, but if you don't know what a virtual private network is, it gives you the ability to watch content whilst in one country, in another country. So for example, if you were in New York and you wanted to use your UK Netflix, you log in on your phone, your app or your tablet, and you change your location to London instead of New York or wherever you are, and then your computer thinks that's where you are, your phone thinks that's where you are, and you can log in without any problems. It also protects your private messages, your photos, your videos, your sensitive information securely. And as I said, one of the coolest features is its ability to change your virtual location on platforms like Netflix, giving you access to a world of content no matter where you are. They also offer an alert system which notifies you if your personal data is compromised online. And you can use Surfshark on unlimited number of devices once you've signed up. So it's compatible on Android, iOS, Amazon TV. And the exciting part is this month Surfshark is rolling out an exceptional deal for all of you. Just for using the code UNITEDSTAND through the link in the description or scanning the QR code, you could get up to 6 extra months free on your Surfshark super subscription. That's right. Half a year of premium digital protection at no additional cost, exclusively for you. So make sure you grab it while it lasts. And it's not just a VPN service. It's got an alert, antivirus, search, and alternative ID plus. There's also always the peace of mind that comes with the 30-day back money guarantee. So don't miss out on this amazing opportunity. Use the code UNITEDSTAND to get your hands on this fantastic deal from Surfshark. Thanks to Surfshark for their generous offer. Now let's jump into the video and we're going to be talking about, well, we go from one generous offer to will there be an offer? I think that this deal, my perception of this deal is this. Guirassy is, of course, the striker for Stuttgart. I think he's like 27, 28. He has this release clause of £15 million. He scored a lot of goals in the Bundesliga this year. We had Fabrizio Romano telling us that Manchester United have spoken to his representatives. So he's certainly more than pie in the sky, that's no doubt. But it's gone very quiet around him. He is at the AFCON at the moment. He had a bit of an injury scare before their first game, which I think is either today or tomorrow. And he's expected to play. But there is, according to Bild, which is obviously a German news outlet, and that's where Guirassy plies his trade at Stuttgart, they're saying that this release clause of 17 million euros, 15 million pounds, is there in January, but is expected to run out in mid-January. Well, it's the 13th of January now. Bild is saying that nobody's actually putting a bid in. Nobody. AC Milan, Newcastle, Manchester United. At the moment, nobody's put a bid in. But if what they're saying is true, then there is a deadline about to hit. And if, you know, as much as it would be typical Man United, I'm talking Fellaini, to miss a release clause and then spend £10 million more on him in a couple of weeks, I don't think even United would be that stupid again. So if they are to make a move for Guirassy, they're going to have to do it this weekend. And I don't think we are. I don't think we are. So, I mean, that's my perception of it. I don't think we're going to do it. But the release clause is there. It's £15 million. He's scored a lot of goals for Stuttgart. It'd be a more experienced striker. But that transfer, that release clause is going to run out in a couple of days. So, and tomorrow's Sunday. So, effectively, I think if we don't hear anything today, and that release clause does have a time limit of mid-January, then that's another one crossed off, which when we go back to what Fabrizio said at the start of the month, United looking to bring a striker in this month, Guirassy, Choupo-Moting, Werner, Malen. The reason this is so significant this morning is Choupo-Moting's been ruled out, Timo Werner's going to be playing for Spurs tomorrow, Guirassy's release clause is about to expire, so it leaves you with Malen. That's, it leaves you with Malen, and that's if Anthony Martial leaves. So it's not a great situation if you're looking for Manchester United to bring somebody in. My personal stance on this is always the same. We've done this so many times, and I would say this to Sir David Brailsford, I'd say this to Sir Jim Radcliffe, I'd say it to John Murtagh. What is it about repeating the same mistake that makes you want to keep making that mistake again and again and again? Like, I remember the season Ollie was top. We were top for a brief period in January, and everyone was saying, make a couple of signings in January. We're top at the moment. We're probably not going to win the league, but what if we could? What if we made a couple of signings in January? We didn't. I think that was the year we brought Agallo in on loan. Last season, we got there, but we brought Weghorst and Sabitzer in. The season before with Ranić, he's talking about Alvarez, he's talking about Enzo before they were at Benfica, before they were at Man City. He's talking about all sorts of players. No, we don't want to do anything. We've literally messed up multiple January transfer windows by not doing anything. And here we are again going, no value in the market, don't fancy doing anything, let's just wait till the summer. And it's not like we're in a position where a couple of players coming in aren't going to help us. We can't win Europe, we're not in Europe, but we could assault top four. We could go deep in the FA Cup. We could ignore the January transfer window. Martial stays inconsistent and can't be arsed. Rasmus gets injured, and who's playing up front? Rashford gets injured, who's playing up front? The opportunities are there, but Man United seem to just be, stuck in a review. And a review can be very convenient. A strategic review needs to happen, but it can also be very convenient because it can put the handbrake on. And what do the Glazers love? They love selling the club for a year and then not selling the club. They love a strategic review that takes ages, because when you're selling the club or you've got a strategic review, it's a great excuse not to spend money. So excited to potentially see Martinez back on the pitch. Love his intensity, says Stephen. Hi Mark, did you see Rashford's brainless reply to Sancho? It's time we call out these players who think they're bigger than the club and undermine Ten Hag, says Risa. So what this is all about is that we spoke about it on the show last night. Jadon Sancho put a tweet out or an Instagram post out, and Marcus Rashford's the top reply saying, yes, sir, love. I think it's just a modern game. It really doesn't get me irritated at all. I know it gets a lot of people irritated, but look, as I said, it's the modern game. One thing I will always agree with you, Risa, is that the player power at Manchester United is a disgrace. It's vomit-inducing how players run that football club. And I think Manchester United Football Club, under the Glazers, especially over the last 10 years since Sir Alex left, has descended into a circus that I don't recognise. It's run by the players. I'm tired of telling you that. Man United's run by the players. It is. Breaking news? No, it's slow sports news. Manchester United Football Club is run by the players. From the moment they sacked Jose Mourinho, that club has been run by the players. It's run by players. They can put Instagram posts out because they know they'll be playing tomorrow. This would not have happened in Sir Alex Ferguson's day. As I said, if David Beckham had Instagram when he left for Real Madrid and put a post out saying, I'm really happy here, and Gary Neville was the top reply saying, yes, sir, love, Gary Neville would be joining him in Madrid if he was lucky. If Real Madrid wanted him. Because Sir Alex Ferguson would go, you've just undermined me. I don't really give a shit about it, but you've just undermined me. You're gone. But that won't happen now, because Manchester United is player power. And even I have become indoctrinated in that, to the point where I don't really care if current United players like Instagram posts of Jadon Sancho going to play for Dortmund. I don't care, because that's who we are. I don't get shocked or angry about it, because it's what I expect. I don't even have an issue with Rashford doing it, or Wan-Bissaka or anybody else, because it's allowed to happen. You can't, if you were at school, or well, let's not say school. If you're at work and your boss walks in and you go, "All right, wanker," and he goes, "Yeah, are you all right?" and that's acceptable. That's acceptable. It's not the people doing it. People will always push the boundaries. United have got no discipline because the club is run by the players. If you was director of football, it was you who... Robert... Right, okay, so Robert's talking about... This morning I woke up and I got sent this tweet saying, Mark Goldbridge, the problem at Manchester United, he was anti-Harry Kane and that's why it didn't happen, or something like that. I mean, unfortunately, we need to take care of these people in the community. There are people out there that are so deluded that they think because we're the biggest Manchester United fan community, we actually influence transfer strategy. So I have took the blame this morning for the failure to buy Harry Kane. I've took it on. Don't worry, I've took one for the team. I've apologised, and I've also said it's on Twitter. I've put a statement out. Don't worry, I've covered it off. I take full responsibility for Manchester United not signing Harry Kane, and I will be surprised if I survive the weekend in relation to my job as director of football for Manchester United. Yeah, even though I had nothing to do with it, and I think he would have been a brilliant signing. Apparently, it's my fault, so I will take responsibility for that. John Murter, you can have a weekend off. Morning, Mark. Have a great weekend, all United fans, says Magic. Thanks for being a member. Morning, says Solid Blake, a member for 12 months. Ewan says, any plans for today? Yes, mate. Chelsea, Fulham at lunchtime, and then Newcastle, Man City at 5:30 with a bit of content on the United stand in between. Really looking forward to Premier League football being back. I've enjoyed the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, but Premier League football's where it's at. So excited. Stephen, I want to talk about that. But yeah, as I said, with Guirassy, I don't think we make a bid. In fact, I was going to ask the question, would you do it? If you're tuning in a little bit late and you're wondering what's going on with Guirassy, I mean, we have spoken to him and his representatives. He's at the AFCON at the moment. But this release clause that he has is up this weekend, according to Build. So if United don't bid today, it's not going to happen, is it? Would I do the deal? That's the most important thing before we move on to the next segment. Would I do the deal? It doesn't really matter because I don't know enough about him. I'm dubious about this deal. I think it's a risk, but I don't know enough about Guirassy. I can't sit here and say don't buy Guirassy. For me, it feels a little bit flash in the pan. He feels like a striker that scored a load of goals in a few months, and I wouldn't do this deal. But if he's been well scouted, which obviously well scouted and United don't go together, of course I'd do the deal, because for 15 million quid, for most clubs, 15 million quid, you can wipe your arse on it. It's not a lot of money. It's like Malacia, isn't it? Malacia doesn't really matter. It'd be nice for Malacia to succeed, but I've almost forgotten about Malacia. Dan James as well. You spend 15 million pounds on a player, and it doesn't really matter if they make it or not. But the fact that we'd be signing him feels a little bit short term. But the fact that we've done nothing, I think, is problematic. Simon says, it's embarrassing. Every day there's something else. It would be lovely just to wake up to some positive news for a change. Great show. Thank you, Simon. Hello, Mark. Can't wait to see Martinez and Casemiro back, says Will. The team looks so much better with it. Thank you very much for that as well. I think in relation to a striker, we had and are still in the position where Anthony Martial is going to dictate this. Player power. As I said last night, it's player power. Man United want to bring a striker in. Why would you go around speaking to 5 strikers' representatives at the start of January if you're not looking for a striker? Manchester United will just have to take it on the chin at the end of the month that they've embarrassed themselves publicly again, that they wanted a striker and they didn't get one because Anthony Martial told them what tune to dance to. And that's where we're at. Ten Hag basically betrayed that yesterday. Most of us could figure that out ourselves. If we don't buy a striker in January or loan a striker in January, then it's because of player power. It's as simple as that. They can't get rid of Martial, so they can't bring a striker in. Walshy says, what about Benzema? If you want to keep talking about Benzema, that's absolutely fine. All I'm going to say is I respect you more than that. I think you're more intelligent than that. And I think people who are shouting Benzema out are the same people who shouted Harry Kane out in the summer. We couldn't sign Harry Kane because Spurs wouldn't sell him to a Premier League club. It was an impossible deal. And why is Benzema coming to Manchester United? And why are some Manchester United fans disrespecting themselves and the football club by even mentioning that name? This is not fantasy football. This is not Football Manager. This is real life. Why is Benzema coming to Manchester United? Why is Benzema on £1 million a week leaving the Saudi League after 4 months? Why is the Saudi League letting him do that? And why is he coming to Manchester United on loan? And where's the £1 million we're going to give him a week to come and do that? And why would he want to do it? Should we get Mbappe as well? Maybe we can get Maradona to rise from the dead and play in midfield. I mean, I don't know why. It's just a waste of time. I don't know why people talk about this shit. Who starts it off? Do you watch somebody else or read something else? Or I don't know where you get it from. I don't know where you go. It's just wasted a minute, really. But anyway, look. Would I take Benzema? It's a debate, but it's not a reality. It's sad, but my gut feeling is Anthony Martial will run out his contract. We won't sell or get rid of the deal because we can't, says John. And morning, Mark. What's Ten Hag's obsession with playing only one CDM since the start of the season? Obviously, it doesn't work in the Premier League. It's a very good tactical analysis there, Dawal, and I don't really know. But look, let me just bring that in because there's quite a few bits to get into on the show this morning. But I don't know whether you saw this article. Let me just tell you where it came from because Paul Ince obviously is a friend of the channel. We used to have him on quite regularly before he got the Reading job. And what he's basically said is that Manchester United need to be careful with Kobbie Mainoo. Paul Ince has said that realistically he should be dropped. Not because he's a bad player, but because he's still a young player, so he needs to come in and out of the team. He shouldn't be playing every week. It's too much for a young player to be playing in that midfield, game in, game out. And he also mentioned something quite interesting as well, is that when you get that level of exposure, you know, you've got to focus on your job. You've got to be professional. Don't start going out with your mates and enjoying the trappings of success. And I think Ince will probably get a bit of stick for this, but I actually think he's probably talking sense. You know, you see the headline, Mainoo needs to be dropped or whatever like that, because they'll take what he said and you know, that's ultimately what he is saying. But the crux of the matter is he's saying that Mainoo's a young lad who's been thrown into that situation and he still needs to get rest. He still needs to be in and out. You can't just keep picking him game in, game out, game in, game out, especially when you think he had a bad injury in the summer. And also, there's very few players that play game in, game out from that age in the centre midfield and are still doing it in 10 years' time. So we've got to keep an eye on, you know, taking him in and out of the limelight. We did a very good job with Garnacho. I don't want to see Mainoo out of the team. I think Mainoo should be playing every game, but it's a great point from Ince. And also, I think as a fan base, we have to do this, whether you want to do it or not. We have to scrutinise the player off the pitch more. The club have to do it, and we do as well. We don't need any more players seen, pictured going out, having a, you know, party time, you know, out at this event, out at that event. We need footballers who want to be footballers, and that's this is player power again. It's sad that we would ever need to do this, but we've fallen foul of it for so many years. The brand player, the party player, you know, the guy that wants to be a Man United footballer and a personality. We need that. We need that all to stop. And Man United have encouraged it. Manchester United, under the Glazer regime, have encouraged it because a footballer that does brand work off the pitch generates more interest in Manchester United and sells more kits. So United go hand in hand with this. This is not necessarily the players. The players want to do it, but the club encourage it. This needs to change. And I agree with Paul Ince. You know, with the young player like Kobbie Mainoo and Rasmus and Garnacho, you don't want to start seeing them out at events and, you know, partying and stuff like that. You want to see them focusing on their football, because this is where Man City make big gains. They're professional footballers. And I know Jack Grealish is their party guy, but Grealish doesn't even start that much. And Grealish, I think, was a gimmick by Man City anyway. He's a good footballer, but I think they purposely brought Grealish in to give them a bit of a, personality off the pitch. But they're mainstay players, they're professional footballers. And I think Ince is right about that. These young players need to not follow the path of some of our other younger players. It's sad, but we do need to do that. It's sad that we have to do that, but some of our footballers at Manchester United over the last few years have had people around them that have encouraged them to maximise their earning potential off the pitch. Sir Alex hated it with Beckham. It's the reason he got rid of him. And yet United have learnt nothing from the Sir Alex era, because they actually allow it to happen. You know, we've got loads of people who do what Beckham did off the pitch, and we're not successful on the pitch. We do need to look at that. So look, I'm not saying that Mainoo's the sort of guy that's out partying. In fact, you'd hear completely the difference. But You got to keep them grounded. You got to keep them professional, because that's what they're paid to do. So I agree with Ince on that side of thing, but I think it's relevant to any player we bring in and any player that's currently there. There are plenty of stories. To be fair, a lot of them aren't at the club anymore. They've been shipped off on loan, etc. But you know, you speak to people around the Manchester scene, and they're like certain nightclubs. You regularly see certain players in there, you know, on a Saturday night, whatever. So that needs to stop. I mean, again, under Sir Alex Ferguson, he knew all the licensee holders, he knew all the landlords and landladies, and he knew where his players were. I know where some of our players are on a Saturday night. Does Ten Hag know where they are? We need to stamp that out. It's fine if you're top of the league. You know, I remember having Paul Ince on the show, and he said, you know, sometimes on a Wednesday night, you know, we'd be out having a few beers, but we knew we had to win on Saturday. If we did that, that was the sacrifice. We're not winning on the pitch at the moment, so I don't excuse any player out partying or having a good time because you're not good enough on the pitch. It's something we need to look at. But would I drop Mainoo for the game against Spurs tomorrow? Look, there's an influx of players coming back that are really interesting. I don't. It wasn't lost on me what Ten Hag said yesterday about the potential for players to come back, and he sort of left it very open. Casemiro, Martinez, Eriksen, Luke Shaw, I think Harry Maguire was mentioned as well. How many of them are involved tomorrow? Because we don't play until the FA Cup after tomorrow, which is I think it's like, I think it's 2 weeks, because we don't play Premier League football next week because that's our week off, like it's Liverpool's week off this week. So the temptation with Ten Hag is he's a bit of a laptop manager. So, and what I mean by that is we've seen it so many times. He does follow the sports science. He's always done it. You'll have a player playing really well, and on the 60th minute he takes them off, and you know why he's took them off, because computer says don't give them more than 60 minutes. They're on the way back. So I don't personally agree with this. I mean, we've had an injury crisis despite the science. So I think if a player's playing well and they're just coming back from an injury, I'd push it to 70 minutes, 75 minutes, because I want to win the game. But I think we have to bear that in mind. Martinez has played no minutes. Casemiro has played no minutes. Luke Shaw has played no minutes recently. Harry Maguire has played no minutes recently. Is he going to start all of those players? I don't think so. If he did start them, I think they'd come off after an hour or maybe even at half time. So I don't see them back tomorrow. So I think Mainoo has to start. I think he'll go with... I can see McTominay starting tomorrow. I can. I don't know how he gets away with it, but I mean, I'd say McTominay was dreadful against Wigan, horrific against Forest. Yeah, I've got there's no justification to start him, but I think he will. I think Mainoo's got to start as well because he's fit. And the midfield three I really want to see is Casemiro, Mainoo, and Bruno. So for me, I wouldn't take him out of the team. However, where I do agree with Ince is that next week against whoever we get in the FA Cup, maybe that's the game where you don't play Mainoo. Maybe in the FA Cup you play McTominay and Eriksen. We're playing a non-league side or a League Two side. That's how you get clever with Mainoo. He shouldn't play every game. I agree with Ince on that. He shouldn't play every game. He's a young lad, and there has to be times you take him out of the team. But you do that in a clever way. We need to beat Spurs. He's got to play. He was man of the match for me again in our last game. So he's got to play against Spurs. I wouldn't play him in the Cup. I'd play him against Wolves. And that's the sort of thing I'd do. It's like, oh, there's a game we don't need to use him. That's how I do it. You don't go and start dropping him, in my opinion. But it's great to have the likes of Martinez back. It's great to have the likes of Casemiro back. But can you honestly see them playing tomorrow when we know Ten Hag follows the sports science? He follows that laptop about, you know, risk and reward and energy levels. And I just can't see him doing it. If he's going to risk anybody, then to use a little bit of a visual prop, if he's going to use anybody, I would say that it will be this guy. Because we are basically putting our whole season on this, on what I'm about to say. If we don't improve with Casemiro and Martinez back, we're screwed. We're absolutely screwed. if you're a manager of Manchester United, here's a question for you. If you're a manager of Manchester United and you've lost the amount of games that Ten Hag's lost, and you know Ineos are running a strategic review, and you know there's a new director of football coming in, only an idiot thinks their jobs are not at risk. So in that scenario, would you rather have Martinez and Casemiro fighting your corner, or would you rather have the current lot fighting your corner, who have lost a lot of games? And I think it's not disrespectful to the Brunos of this world, because Bruno can have a massive part in success, but I don't think it's misplaced faith to say that Casemiro and Martinez sort of have Ten Hag's future in his hands, because they're the sort of players, I mean, maybe it's that South American determination or whatever, but and also Martinez loves Ten Hag, of course, but they're the sort of players that if it doesn't work with them, it ain't going to work. Like, these are Ten Hag job savers, really, and they either come back and make an impact, or we're in big trouble. And it's going to be very, very interesting. Just on the would you sign Guirassy, 62% of you say yes, which is well, it's not surprising. It's open for interpretation. Malp says deal day is laughing. If you're tuning in a little bit later, what's the title all about? So Bild, who are a German outlet, are saying that this Guirassy release clause of 15 million quid runs out this weekend in the middle of January. So if Man United are going to follow up the conversations they had with his representatives, it's going to be now or never. 15 million quid to buy Guirassy, 27-year-old Stuttgart striker. He's scored a few goals. He's at the AFCON at the moment. Do you do it or not? I don't think United are going to do it, but that deadline's there, and we'll have to wait and see if they do it or not. Malp says it would be pointless doing it because he won't get any service anyway. Look, negativity reigns, right? And you've got every right to be negative. We're out of Europe. The Glazers are still in charge. We've lost loads of games, but I'll tell you a little story, and it's a very little story. Manchester United got rid of David De Gea because Ten Hag wanted a ball-playing goalkeeper. That ball-playing goalkeeper cannot play ball-playing football because his defensive line has got Johnny Evans in it or Harry Maguire in it, who can't wander up to the halfway line because they'll get exposed for pace. So our defensive line is set too deep to play ball-playing football. There's no trust to do it, quite rightly. When Martinez comes back, that defensive line pushes up higher. When Martinez comes back, Martinez is a progressive ball-carrying and playing footballer from the left. There is a real opportunity with Martinez back that Manchester United could transform the way they play out from the back. Especially with Varane, Luke Shaw and Dalot there. That's probably his best back four. And Casemiro's back as well. When Erik Ten Hag was imagining how to use Onana in the summer, it would have been around Martinez, Shaw, Varane, Casemiro. That defence has the potential to exist in the next fortnight. It will be transformative if Ten Hag allows it to be. So there is reason to go, well, this could be beneficial for the way we play. It could be beneficial for Onana. This was the prototype of what he wanted to do. Will it happen? Let's wait and see. So, I don't know whether it'll happen, but there is reason to believe that it could. Jack says, Mark, that's what I like most about Garnacho. He's quiet and a family man at such a young age, and he seems well-grounded, says Jack. Well, he is in a relationship. He has a child, doesn't he? Garnacho probably doesn't, well, he does get a lot of credit from this community, and I hope he gets it beyond, but he seems to be a very grounded professional footballer who's focused on, being as good as he can be. And he will get all the trappings of success with that, but hopefully he can continue to resist it. If McTominay starts, I'm convinced Erik Ten Hag is trying to get the boot, says Muyad. And Aaron Wan-Bissaka did not comment on Sancho's postmark from what I saw. Don't lump him in with Rashford, says Prince. He liked it, mate. That's what I'm talking about. And it wasn't me who lumped him in with it. It was other people. Morning, Mark. What's Ten Hag's obsession? We've done that one. And Alex King says, I can't see us signing anyone. We need communication from the club and action. Like mushrooms kept in the dark, they don't care about as fans. And Raphael says, play style should be really interchange, shouldn't it? John Smith says, Garnacho's grounded. Laugh out loud. But so why is Garnacho not grounded then? Everything he does seems to be revolve around football. Yeah, he can be quite arrogant on the pitch with his celebrations and stuff, but he's got a settled family life around him. He's performing on the pitch. I'm not saying that it will always be that case, and I'm not saying that I know him personally, but Garnacho for me is probably Manchester United's Player of the Year so far. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he is. And I think, look, I'm not saying that selling Alvaro Fernandez is the worst thing in the world United have ever done. For me, it's just another disappointment in a sense that it reminds me a little bit of the James Garner deal. I'm not happy about it, but because I think that okay, I will be really blunt on this. When I look at Manchester United at the moment, the success of this season, if you can call it success, because this season's been dreadful. But what are the if I asked you to list 3 things that have been positive about Manchester United's football team this season, you're going to really struggle. You are going to struggle. I mean, your third choice might be Johnny Evans, actually. That's a valid choice. But your top 2 are going to be the progression of Garnacho and the introduction of Kobbie Mainoo. So in Manchester United's top 3 positive things from this season so far, and I'm not going to say that there's loads, but for me, Garnacho and 3am says Benny McCarthy also commented on the post. I mean, I just think it's incredible that the one of the coaches at the club is posting positivity on Jadon Sancho, who's fell out with your boss. It's just mad. It's mad, isn't it? But again, there's no discipline at Manchester United. I'm not saying that Benny McCarthy shouldn't do it. I'm not saying that at all. He can do what he wants. But exactly, he can do what he wants. There's no discipline at United. There's no accountability. There's more leaks than a bloody hedgehog's lilo. It's as I said last night, I don't want to go down this route again, but everybody who works at that club is intoxicated on the air of spite, greed, selfishness and bitterness, and everybody breathes it in and everybody breathes it out. The club is just rudderless. It's the Wild West. There is no community. There is no, everybody's out for themselves, and that's why we're shit at football, because it's selfish. There's a selfish mentality in that football club, and it obviously runs through coaches, fitness department, recruitment. There's no trust, there's no loyalty, there's no camaraderie. It's toxic, and people are empowered to publicly undermine. Of course they are. Malp says freebie Inda, which is interesting. What was I talking about before then? I was onto something really good, but I've completely forgot. Lowe says you don't know the ins and outs, though. Well, I do. Of course I do. What do you mean I don't know the... Come on, give us more. Give us more. What do you mean we don't know the ins and outs? I think you want to pretend that we're not a shit football club. I think you want to pretend that we live in a social media world where because someone smiles and puts their thumbs up and, signs a few autographs, that's the sort of player that you want at Manchester United. You need to remove your head from your arse and look through history of what Man United is. We're shit at the moment, and I don't know why people are protecting some of these players. They haven't performed. They've had an opportunity. They've not performed. I don't get it. I just don't get why we're living in a drama over the last few days about people liking Jadon Sancho posts or people posting under Jadon Sancho's post. So fucking what? What do you expect? The club is toxic. It is run by the players. Why are people shocked about these things? They're not turning up on the pitch. They don't care about the fans. They care about themselves. Manchester United Football Club have facilitated a toxic environment where we've got players who, dependent on whether they can be arsed or not, turn up or don't turn up. Who knows who, tomorrow they might all turn it on again. I think we'll win tomorrow. I really do. I've completely forgotten what I was talking about before that because I've been drawn into something else. Pig says you're making it into a drama. I'm not making it into a drama, mate. I didn't put the super chat out about Marcus Rashford. I said last night and again this morning, I don't care about it. It doesn't bother me that Marcus Rashford tweeted, or Benny McCarthy, or anybody else. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. It bothers some of you. I sort of get it. Would it happen under a proper football club? No, it wouldn't. But how can you criticise players or members of staff for showing a lack of respect to their manager by supporting a player that's fallen out with him publicly? How can you moan about that when the football club has been run badly for 10 years and has empowered those players and other players that have previously been here to behave how they like? That's the problem. I don't blame Rashford or McCarthy or anybody else. I blame Manchester United Football Club for how weak they are in empowering footballers for 10 years to take control of this football club and run it into the ground with their own selfish, spiteful, bitterness attitude, which we have seen from multiple players over multiple years. Let's not individualise it. It's an environment. An environment leads to certain behaviours. There is no discipline, there is no structure, there is no camaraderie, and that has been facilitated and bred by a Glazer ownership which is focused on making money. And they see footballers as money, and they encourage brand and external activities to make them more money. We need to focus on the footballing side of things. Of course we do. The players ain't for club. Mojo says Mark loves drama. I really don't. I love Manchester United winning games of football, and I don't really understand why I'm being associated with somebody else's frustration about people posting under an Instagram post I don't care about. So, yeah, I don't care about it. Benny, I was actually talking about something else which I've completely forgotten about. I don't want to talk about Sancho or anybody else, but if anybody can remember what we were talking about before we got drawn into that, it would be great. I've lost my way. Anyway, just until Alvaro Fernandez was what I was talking about. Yes, so I think with Alvaro Fernandez, as I was saying, yes. So if I said to you, list your 3 big positives of this season, I'll guarantee 99% of you will say the progression of Garnacho and the integration of Kobe Mainoo. And maybe your third thing would be, surprisingly, how consistent Johnny Evans has been. I think that would be a fair third choice. I'm struggling to think of anything else, to be honest. Is there any other positives from this season other than Garnacho's consistency, Mainoo's development, and probably Johnny Evans surprising us all and not being as bad as we thought he was going to be? I can't think of any other positives. Rasmus in the Champions League scoring all those goals was a positive, but there's not been many. My point here is the success of this season, if there is any, has a real identifiable recipe, and that is trusting in young players who are good enough, who are hungry, and get what it means to play for Manchester United. There is a blueprint of the sort of player that we need to buy. And we need to buy players like Liverpool do with Alexis McAllister, etc., like Man City do consistently. We need to buy players that are talented, hungry, and have the personality. We've not done that for years, but we need that. We need talented, hungry, personality players who are focused on their football and want to win every week. That is what we need to buy, and we've failed at that. But if you look at Garnacho and you look at Mainoo, they are talented, young, hungry players with the personality to go out there every week. They've not been intoxicated yet by the poisonous elements of Manchester United Football Club. So I think it's actually, my opinion on Alvaro Fernandez was, and I've already done the video, I did it last June. I said, you know, everyone's going to talk about Mainoo and he's the obvious one that's going to get the chance, but I wouldn't be surprised if Alvaro Fernandez came out as a sort of shock. He's now going to be sold to Benfica, who are a good team. But I think Ten Hag's missing a trick here. You know, at left back, you've got Malacia and you've got Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw I really like, but is injured a lot. And Malacia, to be fair, we see pictures of Malacia out partying. Not partying, not the word. That's can we edit that out? We see pictures of Malacia out and about in Manchester more than we see him on the pitch. That's problematic because he's always injured. So I don't know why Alvaro Fernandez actually isn't at the football club being given opportunities as Luke Shaw's understudy, because you've got another talented, young, hungry player who we're selling. We're selling. So I was asked the specific question, what are your thoughts on Alvaro Fernandez leaving? And I'm like, well, you've got Malacia, who's been here nearly 2 years, who's always injured, and I can't even remember what Malacia is like. The last I remember of Malacia is that his positional sense is terrible and he makes a lot of defensive mistakes, but, he was still learning the job. Alvaro Fernandez is going to sign for Benfica, and he's young, hungry, talented, and appears to have a personality similar to the likes of Mainoo and Garnacho, and we're selling him. And I think that's a shame, because the success of this season has been giving those types of players a chance, because you can trust those players. You can trust those players more than the established players, because they're not yet poisoned by whatever goes on in that dressing room where they become inconsistent. I remember the first few months of Bruno. Incredible. Now with Bruno, you might get a good Bruno, you might get an average Bruno. Sometimes you get a poor Bruno. How has Bruno gone from that player that every week was playing really, really well? And this is anecdotal. This is evidential. This is something that Sir David Brailsford should be looking at. How does Bruno Fernandes come into this football club hungry, excited, talented and consistent, and over the space of a few years become inconsistent? Where's that gone? I'll tell you where it's gone. He's been at Man United for long enough that poison infiltrates him and drags his game down. I remember Paul Robinson, one of our moderators from years ago, saying this. He said it about Bruno as well. He said, how long before Bruno Fernandes gets dragged down to the level that everybody else does? Every player we've ever bought over the last 10 years they either start badly and they're a bad signing, or they start well and they drag themselves down, or they get dragged down to this inconsistent level. There is no player at Man United over the last 10 years that's been brought in and stayed consistent. And yet you look at Liverpool, you look at Man City, and they buy players and they get better. They actually get better. At United, you get worse. You come in, you have a buzz, and then you get worse. So if I was Ten Hag, I'd be identifying as many young players as I can and getting them in the team. I mean, you can't pick 5 or 6, but we're selling them because we need to raise money. And why are people buying them? Because they know our youth setup's good. How do you call City's treble bought and telling Grealish, etc., to stop crying when Man United spent more than City and they have less trophies in the past 6 years than City alone? Says Paper. This is I know you struggle for fan content, but this is the United stand, mate. I don't want to talk about City. Thank you very much for your comment. Hi, Mark. I've been subscribed since Van Gaal. Please give my channel Day Return a shout out. I travel from London abroad 4 days out, travelling the same day. It says Day Return. There you go. Thank you very much. Shout out to you there, mates. Thank you very much. Paper, welcome to the members club. Look, to answer what Paper said, Man City have got a structure. They've got a director of football. They've got a sporting director. And they've got a mentality and discipline in that football club. It doesn't matter how much money you spend on players if you don't have what I've just said, and Man City have. It's as simple as that. They've bought better, they've got better discipline, they've got better structure. Simple as that. Guirassy would just be another Weghorst. Get Barella, says Colin. Thank you very much, Colin. Is hip-hop culture the problem? There are trends, says Keel. I don't know about that. Rohan says, Guirassy would be a good backup in case Rasmus isn't available. It would enforce a healthy competition for the number 9 spot and might see the best of Rasmus. Our main problem is scoring goals and it needs to be addressed. Thank you very much for that. Finally, just very, very quickly, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been linked with the Sweden job. We mentioned it momentarily yesterday. What are my thoughts on this? I love Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He's a legend of Manchester United. He was a bit of a nightmare as a coach, and nothing's going to change my opinion on that. But if he can go off and get a career elsewhere, I'd be very happy for him. And the great thing about international football is that many people can get away with it. Roberto Martinez is a bad coach, but he's managed Belgium and he's managing Portugal now. Gareth Southgate's a crap coach and he manages England. So it might be a good job for Ollie. I'd certainly like to see him back in employment. If I was Swedish, would I be happy with it? Probably not. But yeah, it'd be nice to see him back, certainly. And that's it. Really enjoyed the show today. Some good conversation points, some real talk, which is what it's all about. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. 62% of you would sign Guirassy. So, well, look, I'll be very surprised if it happens, but according to German outlets, that release clause runs out this weekend. So if no bid goes in, then he will be staying at Stuttgart. We'll have to wait and see with that. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care, everyone. And I'm on That's Football actually at 12:30. Chelsea against Fulham and Newcastle against Man City at 5:30. So the football is back. Truck says he's Swedish and he's not happy. Yeah, well, welcome to our world. We've got Southgate. Ollie's better than Southgate. Take care, everyone. Speak to you.